the women of my community, they trust that I am keeping those measures in place. So it really is an honor as much as a responsibility to make sure that I keep the platform safe.
Hello and welcome to the BuddyBoss podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies that will help you build, launch, and grow your online communities, courses, and memberships. I'm your host, Jason Broderick, Marketing Manager and Head of Content here at BuddyBoss. If it's your first time here or you just haven't gotten around to it yet, click the subscribe button below this video and click that bell icon to get notified when we release new videos on the channel. In today's episode, I'm joined by Toyin Ajayi from Outdoorsy Black Women, the social network for all black women to connect, celebrate, build community, and open their minds to an outdoorsy lifestyle. Toyin tells us about how the limitations of Facebook groups led her to launch her own community platform to feature black-owned businesses serving her community, how the elections in the US and the increased racial tensions amplified the need for her community to know where they could go to be safe, and how less than a year in, she was able to secure a major national brand sponsor and sell out her first major event with no advertising or press coverage. Let's dive in. Hey Toyin, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. So tell me a little bit about Outdoorsy Black Women, how it started, who it's for, and what it does for them.
Oh man. Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on the show. So Outdoorsy Black Women is kind of like, honestly, I fell into it by accident. So I decided to become a full-time RVer in, I guess, like the height of the pandemic. So in 2020, I went ahead and bought an RV, and I recognized that I was going to be on the road and wanted to have some sense of community. Initially, I started with a group on another social network. And then once the group grew, I realized that this was bigger than that small group, and that there were more Black women out there like me that needed a safe space to know where they could go camping, where they could do all kinds of outdoor activities. And that's how Outdoorsy Black Women was formed. So it is a social network for Black women that want to connect and try outdoor activities and honestly just engage in sisterhood. So it's for all Black women, which includes trans women as well as non-binary people.
Great. Cool. And so is it, as well as being a social community, is it also a business? Does it turn an income? Do you make money from it? That kind of thing?
So the interesting thing about our community is we do have the social network, but we have the site and we have the app, and both are free to join. But the platform itself has paid events. So that would be the biggest way that we would be churning in income, would be from the events and also from sponsorship.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So before you decided that you wanted to launch your own platform, your own community, how was it like? What was it like trying to connect with people, like yourself who were interested in this kind of thing? Was it difficult? Was it hard? Tell me a little bit about life before Outdoorsy Black Women.
Oh man, it's so funny because it's hard to even picture life before Outdoorsy Black Women because I'm so immersed in it now. But to be honest with you, I feel like the members that we have, and we're actually over 1,500 members now in a year. And the biggest thing that comes up for my members is they say, wow, I didn't know anything like this existed. And when I set out to start and put together this social community, I recognized that even though Black women were out there doing all kinds of outdoorsy activities, whether it be beekeeping or surfing and camping, there was not really one place that we could all come together and connect. And so just as much as I needed that space, my members needed that space. So I just decided to create it.
Amazing. So before you decided to launch your platform, what do you think was the biggest struggle that either you had or that members of your community had before Outdoorsy Black Women existed, or maybe even when it was on the other platform, which shall remain nameless?
Do you know what? So what was the biggest reason I even had to take it from that other platform? The need to be able to give my members resources. So one of the major things and the reason why I created a separate site and app was I wanted members to have a directory. And since I'm living a nomadic lifestyle and different, we had different van lifers, we had women who camp all over the country or even all over the world. I wanted to be able to give them a directory that featured Black owned campgrounds, Black owned farms that they could support, places where we could get our hair done. And there wasn't really a organized way to do it the way that I wanted to on other social networks. So I recognize
we can name them, by the way. That was a joke. If you
right?
want to, if you want to name it,
I don't know. I just don't want to because
there's no particular reason we're
only
avoiding
Outdoorsy Black Women exist at this point. So. But I mean, so there just wasn't a way to do it, and I recognize. Okay, so if you're feeling that need, then it means that it's bigger than Facebook, right? It's bigger than having a Facebook group, and so at that point, I recognized I really did need a way to bring those resources, whether it be the directory and events like hiking, which we do. We do monthly hikes in different states. So my community has grown to a place where we are now building out chapters and we have ambassadors in each state too.
Amazing. And do you drive from state to state, like hosting events in different states, or do you have like people who do that for you now?
So this is a funny thing. So one, I'm a full-time RVer, which means I live in my RV full-time. And at this point, I'll say we have 5 established chapters. So we have 5 ambassadors in Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, Florida, and Colorado. And so my goal is to make sure that I do go to the first hike of every ambassador that we have, or every state chapter that we have. So I am traveling to each state at this point, and I love to skydive, so I kind of want to skydive when I go to each different state. So that's kind of
that's amazing.
At this point, I'm going to be in a new state every month for the next few months.
My girlfriend's trying to get me into diving, so we went diving for the first time recently, like scuba diving.
No, I love that.
I didn't have a good experience, but I'm going to take lessons in a London centre, and then we're actually going to Bali in the summer. So the goal is to be like have my basic qualification by the time I go,
and be ready.
She's quite an experienced diver, yeah. So we haven't been able to dive together really up until now. So I want to like go in a pool where it's only however much deep, there's no waves, and I can just like practice with the like all the equipment or whatever. Skydiving is next after that.
Oh no, I love it. Okay, so skydiving is amazing. It's like flying, and actually scuba certification is on my list of things to do because I want to go skydiving. Scuba diving. Well, I want to do both. I want to go scuba diving and skydiving in the Florida Keys. And there's a place called Devil's Den in Florida that I really want to scuba dive because the water's like 70 degrees year round. So it's been fun. I mean, honestly, for me, like I said, I didn't set out to do this, but I feel like I was meant to. And we just had our first major event, which is going to be our flagship event each year, which is called Wine and Waterfalls Weekend. And it was sponsored by REI. So within a year of launching my community and building membership, I was able to get sponsorship with REI. So that's been fun.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So roll back a little bit for me to, you mentioned that sort of in the height of the pandemic, you decided to become a full-time RVer. And that was sort of part of, if not a lot of the impetus to create your own community. So do you think the pandemic, I guess the question I was going to ask is, do you think the pandemic kind of made things worse in your industry? But really the more appropriate question for you is probably, do you think the pandemic might have been a good thing to sort of, to kind of push you towards something that now has become your calling? Or what do you think? How did the pandemic affect you and your world?
How did it affect? Okay. So that's a tricky question. I've actually been wanting to do van life and tiny living for almost 10 years now. So this is basically my second rendition. The first time I wanted to do it, I bought a camper van and it didn't work out because just mechanically it didn't work for me. It worked for whoever I gave it to, but not me. So I recognized it wasn't the time. And then the interesting thing for me is I'm in America. I know you're not in the States, but we had around the time that I decided to go full time, we were also dealing with the elections. And during that time, it was a really rough time racially and tension wise in America. And that was also another driving force for me to start Outdoorsy Black Women, because a lot of us
Mm-hmm.
weren't sure which campgrounds or which places we could go to and be safe. So
Mm.
these were driving factors for us needing those safe spaces. In terms of people wanting to be outside more and outdoors more, I think the pandemic has really given people that sense that they want to connect with nature more and that they want to enjoy the outdoors more. And the RV industry has definitely benefited and boomed from the pandemic. And a lot of it was because people were stuck indoors. So when there were shutdowns or things like that all over, some places didn't really shut down all the way, I'll be honest, but just people recognizing that, like, if I can't be out and about in the movie theater or other things that they used to do, they felt like, oh, okay, if I take an RV, I could go out and explore the outdoors. So more people started hiking and camping, which I honestly think is great. Um, but again, like for people like me, Black women like me, we were dealing with the other side, which like I said, is the racial tension. And we needed to know where we could go to safely. And so that's a lot
Mm.
of why I'm very particular in keeping Outdoorsy Black Women a safe space, because the women of my community, they trust that I am keeping those measures in place. So it really is an honor as much as a responsibility to make sure that I keep the platform safe.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. I love the way you described that. So tell me then, you made the decision, right? Outdoorsy Black Women, I'm going to launch this community. What do you think was the biggest challenge that you faced when you were first starting out to build your community, build your platform? What was the biggest challenge or the biggest thing that slowed you down at the start?
Huh. Okay. I'm trying to think. So I think it's an interesting thing because I've been blogging since 2007. So I like to call myself an OG blogger. I never had any formal training in terms of like web development or web design. But because of those years that I've spent using WordPress and just like fiddling around with HTML and CSS, I think that I'm in a better position than most because I at least know what those things do and I can kind of figure
Mhm.
it out. Like I tell people, my style of web development is just breaking everything and figuring it out as I go. So,
Yeah,
I
I
couldn't
love that.
tell
I
you how to
describe
read
myself
it.
as knowing just enough code to make myself dangerous.
Right, exactly. I couldn't tell you how to do it. I couldn't teach anybody. I can understand the language, but I can't speak it basically, and I can't write it. So, and so I think for me, I have that good base, and I like to say that because I know for others who may not know even what we know, right? It could be a scary venture or really that could be their deficit. And so maybe they would need to
Mhm.
hire somebody. But I was blessed enough to know enough where I didn't have to hire anybody to build my site. So that was good. But I would say, like, kind of getting the community to a place where I was able to bring in some type of money to take care of the cost. Because, when you build a community like this, there's cost involved with whether it be development, whether it be um, servers and things like that. And that was a thing, like not knowing which servers to start with that were going to make sure that the community worked effectively. So I've definitely made some changes over time, and I'm thinking I may make another server change soon just to accommodate more of the
Mhm.
growth and make sure that everything stays.
So,
Yeah.
how do you think discovering BuddyBoss helped you in that sort of in the initial phases? How did discovering the actual platform, the tools itself, help you move faster
Help.
or improve your experience or whatever?
So I will say this, like initially, because I've been around WordPress for so long, I remember like old school BuddyPress and things like that. And I've used those before. And so I know the difference between that and BuddyBoss. And when I found BuddyBoss, I was very excited because I'm like, okay, this potential to grow my community into what I want it to be is completely there. Plus, initially, I found another another platform, and I'm
Which you
still
can
not
totally
really
name
pleased.
if you like.
I can name them. Well, okay, I'll say it. So initially, I was gonna go with Peepso, right?
Okay.
And I went in there, tried to build my community, and I realized it was missing everything I needed. Like, there were a lot of things missing that I needed. And then also, there was no opportunity to have an app built. And to me, knowing that I wanted this to be a social community and social network, that needed to be there. Um, and they never gave me a refund back, by the way, even though I requested my refund in 2 days. So, and I'm just saying that just
Thanks.
because, like, I think that it's important that people know that choose what's going to work best for you. Like, I get if an app is not necessary for you, that maybe other things will work, but I'm thinking about the longevity of my community, and I'm also thinking about what my community would expect from a social network, right? So they would want an app. So I was really ecstatic when I found BuddyBoss, and I recognized that one, I feel like you guys have a really great team behind you, a great development team, and I feel like if you're patient, you just got to go with the process. Like, and that's for me, being that I've been like, I know what the world of blogging and influencer marketing looked like from the get-go, from the beginning. It was not great. And I've seen what it's become now. So I'm a person who can be patient. I know it's easy to want everything now, but I feel like in terms of what I need for my community, I was able to, like I said, have a community that's growing. We're at 1,500 members now. I have no fear that that can continue to grow. I know that I have enough in place to continue to grow my community and grow with BuddyBoss. Like, I'm looking forward to what you guys have in the future, for sure.
Okay, cool. So what's been the biggest highlight
And this was
of...
not a paid interview.
We swear.
Right.
Toyin, what's been the biggest highlight to highlight or benefit to you personally of building your business or of building your community?
Oh man, there've been so many. I will say honestly, like, again, with hosting Wine and Waterfalls weekend, which was something I knew that I wanted to do at some point, but I didn't think it was going to happen this fast. And so being able to get REI on board to sponsor that event, it was a weekend retreat. We got to do vineyard tours. We did a waterfall hike, and we did glamping and camping. And I had a lot of first time campers at this event who, by the time the event was over, they want to go buy their own tents. So for me, that was a really big highlight. And at some point I boohoo cried. So I can't say.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was definitely crying. And to be honest with you, just being able to have this space for us and continue to build this space and recognize how it's changing the lives of my members is really a blessing, and that's a highlight in itself.
Amazing. That's a good segue into the next half of that question, which is, what do you think the biggest benefit to your members or your users has been of building the community on BuddyBoss?
Them being able to find each other and to be able to find other hiking partners or just other Black women that they can ask like camping questions, and they're on the community now and kind of connecting and being able to say, hey, do you want to go camping next weekend, or do you want to go on a hike next weekend? And that's what this community is for. So I think it's really exciting to see it all coming together.
Sweet. So we're going to jump into a few, well, I call them lightning round questions. Okay. So first one is, what's the number one book that you think all entrepreneurs should read?
This is so funny. Okay, I'm terrible for this question, and reason being, I love to read, but I'm a romance novel reader, and I read like
I love it.
I do. I love reading,
Amazing.
and I have like, but I don't read. And this is gonna sound terrible. I don't read entrepreneurship books.
Right.
I know.
Well,
I
that's an answer
know.
in itself. Yeah,
There's a
maybe
well,
the recommendation is that entrepreneurs should go and read some fiction, stop spending their lives reading nonfiction, and go read some romance. That's a recommendation in itself, I think.
so you know what? Okay, I do have. I guess I can follow that up because I don't want any. There's nothing wrong with entrepreneurship books. I think for me, in my my entrepreneurial style in general, is that I don't really try to focus on what other people are doing. And part
Great.
of that, one, I gotta say, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, like legitimately. I had my first babysitting business and had business cards when I was like 16. And when I was a kid, I used to sell services in my home. I wrote my first will when I was 7. So,
Wow.
yes. So, I, it's a little unique, but it's not that there's anything wrong with looking at what other people do, but I like my ideas to be fresh and from myself. Now, I'm big on researching how I want to get things done, but I just don't follow necessarily entrepreneurial books I think because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, great. That's as great an answer as any. So what do you think? What's your number one place to go then to learn about building your business or to learn skills online?
I wouldn't. I have more than one, if that's okay. One,
Feel free.
YouTube, Google, Udemy. Like these are great resources. But I mean, you can pretty much find anything you want to know how to do on YouTube or Google at this point. It's a lot of
Hmm.
like if I'm trying to code something or develop something and I'm like, all right, I'm stuck, I will go use Google and YouTube.
Are there any particular channels you like on YouTube or anything like that? Anything in the WordPress
No,
space that you
I'm
find
so
particularly
terrible.
useful?
Oh well, you know what? I will say hold on. There is one. What is it? WC3? Is that it? Or
Yeah,
W3C?
the
Is that the
World
one?
Wide Web Consortium.
Yeah, the consortium. That's one I use a lot. So I think that's
Nice.
if you're
Great.
trying to code, that's probably like standard anyway. And I guess I can
Yeah.
recommend
Amazing.
if you are looking to learn to code, get VS Code or Visual Studio Code because it's free, and then you could use that to learn as a resource to kind of practice your code.
Amazing. Amazing. Cool. So what's the one thing that you wish you'd learned or wish you knew before you started your community?
I wish I knew how beneficial WP Fusion was going to be for me now.
Yeah.
So
We
I
love
like
Jack Arturo. Shout out.
oh my goodness, it's so good because I feel like when I first started, I kept hearing about WP Fusion and I didn't really understand what I would use it for. I got Automator um earlier on. Well, not that early, probably about 6 months ago. And so I started using that and it's been great. But if I knew how useful and beneficial WP Fusion would have been earlier on, I would have done that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a big thing.
It's
I
definitely
will
one of
say
the first plugins I install on pretty much every site I run. Every one of my
yes,
clients has it. Like it's the Swiss Army knife of plugins for sure.
it is.
Yeah, I've now
It's
gotten to the point
amazing.
where I don't even recommend membership plugins anymore. I'm just like, nah, just whatever your
It's so
CRM is
good.
going to be, and WP Fusion will do everything else.
Yeah. No, it's so good. So that's probably one of the things I wish I would have implemented earlier. I do think that one piece of advice is when you're starting your community, you really want to think about who your community is for and what you want your members to do within your community. So having a plan and a map is a really essential thing. And it's a good idea as far as making sure that things run smoothly.
Great. So if you had to start your community all over again, and I gave you $500 to do it, what's the first thing that you would do with that money?
I'm trying to think of all the things. Okay, my stack is pretty robust. So I probably would have started with what I had. Oh, you know what? Another add on to the last one. I would have started on DigitalOcean Direct rather than going through Cloudways. Nothing wrong with Cloudways,
Right.
but I just
Okay.
recognize the difference in the performance.
Right.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I'll tell you this. So this is a funny story.
Mm-hmm.
When I first signed up, I was kind of not on the fence, but I really missed like the early bird special for the apps.
Right. The
I would have signed
super
up
early
early.
bird.
I would have gotten the super early bird, and because
The
I got an
super
early bird,
duper
but I'm like,
early twirly bird. Yeah, yeah.
right. I'm like, every time I think about it, I'm like, man, I should have just went ahead and paid for it at that point. In terms of the 500, probably gone ahead and gotten WP Fusion, maybe gotten the lifetime license and called it a day. I probably would have added to it and bought a lifetime license.
If I gave you $1 million today,
Mm-hmm.
what's the next thing that you would do today to grow your community?
Oh, that's easy. It's actually easy for me because I know what to do with $1 million. So, I'm like, I know most of it. No, I'm good. Actually, there are a couple of things. One, I would take my site and put it on flexible hosting or a flexible server, and then
Yeah,
I
like
would
scalable, scale up, scale down,
yeah,
auto scaling
scalable.
kind of vibes.
Put aside a separate marketing budget. I know where I would market. I would probably market
You can
on
tell me that in a
Facebook,
second.
Instagram. I was gonna say, yeah. I put aside a marketing budget. Then I would also put aside budget for all of the different events that I want to do, and go ahead and get those places
Yeah.
things in line and put those together. Then I
And
would
all the events you run are live, are in-person events, right? As opposed to you don't. It wouldn't help
Yeah.
you to run virtual events.
yeah,
Yeah.
in-person events. I mean, you want to be outdoors, right? So I would put those
Sure,
in
right?
place.
It's not the Outdoorsy Black Women group.
Right, exactly. And then I would probably go ahead and establish my ambassadors in all of the states so that we can have all of those all of our hikes running in all the states. And then I would put together staff. So $1 million right there.
Yeah, $1 million burned through pretty quick. Good. You had answers for everything, so that's great.
Do. It's not hard to do, but I have a plan.
Yeah, I'd like pay off my student loan debt and wipe my
Yeah,
credit
see, like,
cards. No.
If I did buy like one thing for myself, I would buy a new Class C camper or
Right, okay.
a electric RV.
Right,
and an
so you're
electric
running
truck.
like on generator, kind of like gas right now or whatever.
No, I want like a electric, like solar powered electric, like plug.
Got it. You mean as opposed to like the equivalent of a hybrid car, but a you know
Yeah,
electric
exactly.
motor
But for an RV.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, nice,
Yeah.
amazing. Last one then, which is a bit of a meta question. What is success to you, or how do you define success?
Ooh, okay. So I would say so in terms even of just like building this community. From day one, I always said I want the community to transcend me because this community is not about me. So when I die, I hope that this community can continue and continue to grow even past that and transcend generations. So for me, success is building something that truly will benefit my community and as Black women and takes care of those Black women, because even though it starts out as Outdoorsy Black Women, I do really want to do more socially aware campaigns, and I would love to be able to provide like skills for some of the Black women in the community, like entrepreneurial skills. I would love to build homes for them at some point and do other philanthropic campaigns and things for the community. So to me, success is just making sure that we all take care of each other, and that when I'm gone, this is something that still continues.
Cool. So where can people go to find out more about Outdoorsy Black Women and find out more about you?
Awesome. Well, the community is free to join, and so is the app. You can find us at outdoorsyblackwomen.com, or you can find us in the iOS and Android app stores. And again, it's free to join. I have a profile on there, so if you do join the community, I'm at Toyin, Toyin. And of course, you can follow us on social media at Outdoorsy Black Women also.
Amazing. Well, it was really great to chat to you, Toyin, and I
Awesome.
wish you all the best with the
Thank
growth of the
you.
community. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I look forward to it. And I'm sure we'll be chatting in the groups.
No doubt. I have no doubt in my mind.
Thank you.
That was Toyin Ajayi from Outdoorsy Black Women telling us how Outdoorsy Black Women is creating safe sisterhood outdoors and online. You can find everything discussed on today's podcast, along with a transcript and links to any of the resources over at buddyboss.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to let us know, then make sure to hit that like button below and then leave me a quick comment to tell me what was the most valuable thing that you learned from this video. That's it from me. Until next time.